I practice law. Anything I say, trust me, I don't care.
We're live. We're live.
Yes, well, I'll talk to Yes, I will do it today.
I read over
I will also do it tomorrow.
my wife, myself, Sean.
No.
Tested.
No,
I was sure that we had.
You know, it's really quick.
Yeah, and then when we paid a lot of money to get it.
No, but you have to wait so many days.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, it was really nice.
before. So I didn't.
You're still at risk for another week.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Well, I've gotten 2 tests in the last 13 days.
Carla
But
broke
you're
down, but
right.
I think it's,
It's
you
only
know.
7 days since.
Correct.
I don't know.
And you
I
can
have one on
still
my desk. I
transition.
like this better. This, to me,
I
this is
know.
safer.
It's scary.
Well, yeah, I don't disagree with you there.
Yeah, I don't think.
I mean, I.
Well,
Did you enjoy
Everyone is going to experience it so far. Everyone's going to have.
Hoping I can get out. Oh, well, you're gonna get it first.
You want to start that?
Okay.
Yeah, start.
You get it first.
No, we don't.
I was actually like, you get out.
I don't think so. You know what? We're getting that. We ordered it.
Oh, my.
From where?
Okay.
That's where the deal, you get a whole. That's what it is.
Not even at the beginning.
Yeah, we bought the stove for the clock. We got a nice clock.
Thanks for telling Nick that.
What's that?
You bought the stove for the
that
clock,
one?
because that's his new line.
They're coming, Mr. President. We have to go to
We bought it because of the clock.
It's a very nice clock. So how are you kids? Are they in the
People are sending their kids in my class. Oh, you're
Yes, I did.
I read it 3 times today.
People are sending their kids.
People are idiots. Honestly, they're idiots.
Tonight, because they found out the 4-year-old had gone to class already been fine.
How can somebody place somebody else's life in risk? I just, for the life. I can't get it.
My,
I don't get it.
my brother's son is positive.
His brother's son.
My brother's son, we were gonna go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, it's ugly, I think all the positions are probably shut down.
Well, they're all going virtual.
When you come back home?
Yeah, they're all going virtual Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah, my son, he's coming home for good.
Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think go see these restaurants. 'cause
it's a shame.
Feel bad for the rest of us.
It
You know,
is.
I read an article about somebody went, had a beer at a bar or a restaurant. Took some of the beer, cashed the check, and left a $3,000 check.
Oh, really?
I absolutely.
That's nice.
That's great.
That's nice.
Okay, we're back in session. The closed session was regarding a negotiated settlement of a tax appeal that Gloucester Township brought to increase the assessment on the property at Autumn Ridge, Altman Autumn Ridge LLC. We're adding that to the agenda. That'll be Resolution 277. Also, want to bring to your attention, there are 2 add-ons on the board. We wanted to include those because those were cancel some incorrect billing for through the tax office and granting senior citizens and veterans deductions and adjusting their balances. So we wanted to include that on our agenda. So with that, we'll open up our public portion. This is for agenda items only. Anyone addressing council may speak one time. Once all those wishing to address council have had their turn, they may address council a second time only. That's what we said earlier. Each individual is allocated up to 3 minutes. The public portion will run for 15 minutes total. Does anyone like to speak on the agenda on this public portion? Mr. Heimball.
Pete Heimball, Morningstar Court. Good evening. One question, agenda item, resolution 272. for hiring Triad as the market to affordable consultant. Is that under the management, will the housing authority manage this consultant? They manage the market to affordable program last time I asked the question. Is that still true?
Mr. Carter, we try
The recommendation came from Steve Bach, in a sense, as we were going through the various stages of our.
Mr. Carter, can you explain Steve Bach once again?
Steve Bach is the professional representing the town on the affordable housing fair share settlement that we're proposing. As we've been going through the various stages and probably over a year now, there's been a lot of conversation of having somebody actually oversight of the market to affordable program. That's a very difficult program to initiate, not just for Gloucester Township, but for all the municipalities that have a market to affordable. That's how all this is coming back about. And he's always recommended that Triad Associates be a major player with the housing authority as it gets managed because of the expertise they have in the area.
So this, in the housing authority, this Patrick Murray, who was brought on to consult in this program, is he still engaged with that?
My understanding, he's still going to be engaged, correct?
So we have the housing authority, Triad, Patrick Murray, and Bach on the side. I mean,
He's basically going to be under
What
Triad.
on the side?
Bach.
Okay.
Stephen.
He's going to be under Triad. That's my understanding of how the structure comes out.
Okay. What are there terms to this? Is this a contract they signed? Are there terms to it, like a rate per hour or something like that?
I haven't seen that. I don't know. I couldn't answer that. I mean, I can try to find out in real time, you know.
I do not know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Polidoro?
Good evening, Council. Ray Polidoro from the Historic Village of Ariel.
Good evening.
First, wish everybody happy Thanksgiving, a safe and healthy one, of course. On the agenda is the David Buster abatement,
Yes.
and just a couple questions rehashing the abatement parameters. Several times this body has said that you can't stop an abatement; it has to happen. Am I correct in what I'm saying?
It is available to the public, and for any individual or entity can apply for it for commercial properties or industrial properties. So that is something that we use as a marketing tool for our community. So yes, it's available to them to use.
Okay, and a marketing tool, and you would say in bringing or luring a business to the township,
Yes.
and yet those companies that are requesting to move to bring their business to Gloucester Township, where a lure is not necessary, why do we pass abatements along to them?
I don't know if that's necessarily true, if that wasn't a tool that lured them here. Neither you and I were in the room when that happened or had that conversation. So,
Well, that will come before this
think
body,
that's-
right?
I don't think that statement's correct. You know, we don't know if that was the overwhelming factor that brought him here or didn't bring him here.
Well, the reason I ask that is, the township is hurting for revenue. Mr. Carter has made that point very clear numerous times. And in that, when you do an abatement, as you have very well explained through the years, the portion that they pay, which is a growing portion until they get to the full amount at the end of that abatement, which is normally 5 years. And in that case, in that 5 years, as you was also repeated, that the schools and the fire districts do not get any revenues from that. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so in theory, what you have said in the past is that you really can't stop an abatement, but yet you put it on an agenda and bring it to the vote for this body to vote on. Suppose you didn't vote on it, what would happen?
Mr. Coroner, what would happen if we
Well,
don't?
I guess the best way to answer is the authority for the abatement comes from New Jersey legislature. So that was passed, I can't tell you how many tens of years ago. And the township has had that as part of our ordinance authority, which has been adopted by ordinance to participate. has been on the township's books for a long time. So if you have communities or developers that are looking to go somewhere, I would venture to say majority of them see what incentives is one community offering over another. And I've addressed those things over the years, being involved in the township. So once it's there, if they meet the criteria, it's hard for a governing body to say, no, we're not going to grant it, unless that ordinance is pulled out and it's never offered to anybody.
But the state can't mandate that, right? The state has no authority to mandate the township except an abatement.
The state makes it available to all municipalities, and I don't know any municipality that does not provide it. And once it's on your books, you cannot discriminate against somebody and say, no, we're not going to offer it to you, even though you met the criteria for the following date and everything. So it's hard for a governing body to say no if they meet the criteria.
Okay, because I'm wondering if the governing body could use discretion in when we give these abatements out. Because if you keep giving them out and we're not getting the revenues in that we would normally get. And again, I understand abatements, but I also wonder of the years that you have said that you really can't stop it, that you put it on the agenda and you vote on it, which means you do have the capability and capacity to vote no for that. But what's troubling is that the schools that are not gaining any revenues by this and the fire districts, they don't get a say. You're bringing a business in, and we're bringing in a lot more homes and developments into this town, whereas if there's multi-children that are coming into the township and the household is only paying one tax, that may, in some essence, offset some of these costs of rising taxes as the amount of students grow, but the revenue doesn't grow with that from that household. These are the types of things that could offset some of these costs. And yet the schools and the fire commissioners, they don't get to vote on something that is a tax revenue that they're not getting, but the township does.
Right, can I just want to weigh in.
You may need to speak in the microphone for people to hear you.
You're right. The outlets, are they done with the abatement? Okay, so they're done with the abatement. So now the schools are going to reap the benefit of those additional taxes. The fire department, which one is it? 4 who serves the?
That's 4.
Is it 4? So how many fires were at the, or how many calls were placed to the outlets, to the fire department? And, did they purchase any additional equipment? Or should I get into the analysis that says, okay, they didn't purchase any equipment for it. Therefore, they don't have a need for additional equipment. Maybe they don't need to get all of the tax revenue. Certainly no students are living in the outlets. So they're now going to reap the benefits of what the town has done in terms of attracting new business. So I think it's a win for the schools. Don't you?
Well, the formula to which is making up our tax dollars is the division of municipal and schools and fire. And yet the township collects theirs and our schools and our fire don't.
But now the schools are going to get an influx of revenue.
But
And they don't have any students living there.
if you keep on tying 5-pound bags of potatoes to a runner, you're going to slow that runner down. And for the most part, I know.
What's to say the outlets wouldn't have come?
But you got homes coming right now.
Everybody else has this program. This program is run by the state, it's set up by the state, and we're following the state guidelines on how to implement this program. It's a title to a business, and if we deny it, we're discriminatory and we could be sued. That's what could happen. That's what you were asking before. We could be
And I would
sued.
like to see, whereas we can put something in, you got a lot of families that'll be moving into this township and filling up our schools. And the schools will fall behind on that.
It is an
and
attractive to businesses. That's what it is.
It may not. And I really wish you would stop using the state for guidance. They're a terrible example, awful example.
With that, thank you very much, Mr.
Yep.
Polidor. There will be a public hearing at the second reading of that ordinance. Gentleman here in the mask, the black mask,
That's what I said.
a lot of masks.
Everybody.
Mr. Sweet, you're on deck.
Nick?
Nick Reirig, 2506 Beacon Hill Drive. I'm here today because I'm under contract to purchase 12 North Black Horse Pike, which I'm trying to make into a retail shop / tattoo parlor.
Nick, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is this on the agenda?
I'm sorry?
Is this on the agenda?
I'm not sure. No.
Is it possible you come back on the second public portion?
Yeah.
Bring that up? This is
Exactly.
for just agenda items only.
Okay.
It'll be the first one when we have that. Sorry about that. Mr. Sweet?
Sam Sweet from Ariel. Good evening, council. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Thanks.
Hopefully everyone's safe and healthy too. To be clear, there'll be a public hearing for the first reading.
No,
Or the second
for the
reading.
second reading
For the second reading, there'll be a public hearing,
in December.
which we can,
There's always a,
no, I'm sorry, I misspoke. The second reading for the Choose Landing abatement, there'll be a public hearing tonight.
for a second reading for Choose Yes. No. For Choose Landing LLC, yes, there will be.
There will be, so that'll follow this public portion.
That'll follow after we do the first ordinance. It'll be the second reading.
Okay, before it's voted on, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. My question actually is for ordinance 271. The execution and agreement to join the South Jersey or the Southern New Jersey Regional Employee Benefits Fund. First off, it says a number of public entities in the state of New Jersey. Do we have a listing of those public entities, and what exactly is this? It appears to be we're going into a joint funding for insurance again, for a different type of insurance, Medicare Advantage program, it appears. Can I get some clarification from that?
The GIF, Mr. Cardis.
Yeah, it's actually a program that will not cost the municipality any additional dollars, and it will save money for retirees, rather than just a straight out Medicare plan. So it's actually an advantage to retirees, 65 and older, and it has no cost associated with it to us. It's a benefit.
So it's cost neutral?
Yep.
How is it saving money? Is it because all these entities are getting into it?
I don't know the ins and outs of it, Sam, but I mean, I can get that information for you.
If you don't mind, I'd appreciate it. Just what it does say though, a number of public entities. Do we have a listing of those public entities that are getting in on it?
I can get that information. I hope I can get that information for you.
Okay. All right. If you could, that'd be greatly appreciated. That's all I have on the agenda.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? We'll close the first public portion. Chief Harkins memo, Madam Clerk.
November 17th, I am requesting that we appoint the following as volunteer community chaplains for the Gloucester Township Police Department. Reverend Richard Reed and Pastor Michael Williams. November 19th, I am requesting that we appoint Chaplain Kenneth Carbonelli as volunteer community chaplain for the Gloucester Township Police Department.
Thank you. Waive the reading and accept the minutes of executive session October 5th, 2020, special meeting October 10th, 2020, regular session October 14th, 2020, and October 26th, 2020. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second,
On the question, roll call please.
Georgeson,
Yes, to the executive session on October 5th and the regular sessions, October 14th and October 26th. I'll abstain from the October 10th special meeting.
Ms. Grace,
Same from October 5th, 10th, 14th, right? Yes.
No, you go to the 14th, that was your first meeting.
thank you. Mr. Minio,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Stubbs,
Abstain from October 5th, October 14th, October 26th.
Mrs. Winters,
Abstain from October 5th and yes to the other three.
Mrs. Strato,
yes to October 5th, the special meeting, abstain from October 14th, and yes to the 26th.
Mr. Mercado.
Yes to all. Next is our ordinance of first reading. Ordinance 0-20-15. Ordinance authorizing execution of the tax abatement agreement between the Township of Gloucester and Dave and Buster's of New Jersey, Inc. for premises block 13105, lot 1 pursuant to C 441 PL 1991 NJSA 40A 21.1 at Sec and ordinance number 0-19-16. This is for a 5-year tax abatement for the Dave and Buster's property. That is done in increments, 0, and this is again, a tax abatement on the improvements, not the property. There will be a public hearing at the second reading of this ordinance. Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second. On the question? Roll call, please.
Hutchison,
First, I'd like to say it's nice that Gloucester Township is relevant in a very difficult economic time. So I say yes.
Ms. Grace,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs, Mrs. Winters.
Yes.
Mrs. Strata,
Yes.
Mr. Mercado.
Yes. Next is ordinance 0-20-13. There will be a public hearing. Ordinance amending chapter 81 of the Code of Township of Gloucester entitled Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of the Township of Gloucester. This permits the Gloucester Township Police Department to enforce parking, speed limits, tollway, for the Blackwood Falls apartment. We'll now open up the public hearing. Anyone wish to speak? Mr. Sweet.
Sam Sweet from Ariel. With regards to the abatement, I understand that we cannot,
No, this is not the abatement. This is for traffic.
oh, I'm sorry.
It's Blackwood Falls apartment.
I'm sorry.
You have a seat there. You come. I'll bring you up.
Sorry, I apologize.
Is there anyone else like to speak about this ordinance? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion
So moved.
Second.
on the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison,
Yes.
Ms. Grace,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs, Mrs. Winters.
Yes.
Mrs. Strata,
Yes.
Mr. Mercado.
Yes. Next is ordinance 0-20-14. Ordinance authorizing execution of the tax abatement agreement between the Township of Gloucester and Choose Landing LLC for premises block 9708, lot 1, C0100 pursuant to C441, PL 1991, NJSA 40A 21-1 at set, and ordinance number 0-19-16. This is tax abatement for a completed project on that particular block. We'll now open up a block and lot. We'll now open up the public hearing for that. Mr. Sweet?
All right, let's try this again. Sam Sweet from Ariel. I know we can't be discriminatory for the abatements themselves because the entire town has been deemed a rehabilitation zone. The last time we had an abatement though on the agenda, I had asked council that if they would look at revising the entire town being a rehabilitation zone. And I believe that Chuck Palumbo said that it can be done, you just have to petition the state.
Why do I want to do that again?
Can we let him finish, Mr. Hutchinson?
I told her I was going to dialogue here.
I was just wondering where we were, does council look into possibly changing the rehabilitation zones into certain areas of the township as opposed to the whole township?
Since you've made that suggestion, we have not had that discussion as a body. We have not discussed it at our workshop. If my colleagues would like to entertain that, I'm more than welcome to put that on the agenda, workshop agenda, we can speak about it. But we have not talked about it collectively.
But tell me why it's important to do it.
Well, I mean, am I limited? I'm not limited in a public hearing.
You got free reign.
Okay,
There's
all right,
no
well,
time
I'm just
limit.
wondering if the clock was running, that's why.
There's no time limit. Sorry, Mrs. Strada. Good.
So one reason is to make certain areas of the township more attractive than others. Okay, for instance, I'll just use Dave and Buster's. I know it's not gonna get changed by then, but Dave and Buster's has the outlet centers. It's right off of 42. It's prime real estate. We have a Lakewood redevelopment program going there. We have more houses going there. So there's no reason that Dave and Buster's would necessarily, need an abatement, but that's a whole different
I got you.
ball of wax. But maybe moving Dave and Buster's to, say, Blackwood Clementon Road, so Blackwood Clementon Road is more from that aspect, giving them an abatement there to build up Blackwood Clementon Road, which, as Mr. Lechner has said several times, is the most traveled road in the township. Is that not correct?
It's interesting.
It is a traveled road.
I believe in one of the last meetings, you'd said that it's the most traveled road according to that, but then, so, because right now, there's no difference between prime real estate, if you deem the outlets prime real estate, as opposed to Blackwood Clementon Road and the desolate areas that are there. So we would want to attract businesses there. That's the biggest thing. I mean, I understand the abatements attracting businesses, but we want to attract it to areas that the township deems necessary.
I'm not so sure I agree with doing it, but I will say that I understand your point. It's, off the cuff, I would be concerned that you would have a business in one part of the town trying to leverage the town, or leverage using that, saying, hey, I'm gonna move to another place within the town. So I'd be concerned about that, but that's just off the top of my head.
Well, with that, if a town wanted to do that, they would be new construction. Okay, so if let's just say, I'll go Wawa. Wawa wanted to move from Ariel over to Blackwood Clementon Road and try to leverage the town, it would only be for new construction, not the actual property.
But it
So
is
the-
interesting. I'm not
so,
gonna deny it.
You know,
To help Blackwood.
I mean, I could put together a report for you guys analyzing certain items, present it to council, have a discussion at a workshop if you guys like.
Sam, when you do that, can you check to see if there's any other towns that have such a scheme?
There are other towns that certain, according to, and I believe Mr. Palumbo can correct me on this, you can deem whatever you want. You can even deem, say, no two-story buildings are eligible for a tax abatement. Am I correct on that, Mr. Palumbo?
Tax abatement's only for a new project, new construction,
But can you,
for commercial purpose.
yes, but if someone's coming in and you don't want a two-story building or three-story building, can you say exempt them according to the state? I believe you can if it's new construction.
Well, no, you have to understand the difference between a rehabilitation, area of need of rehabilitation, and a redevelopment zone. The redevelopment zone is where council sets up a redevelopment area, and they now have the choice of what they would like to have put there. That's why in a redevelopment zone, you have more control and you have an abatement pretty much automatic in a redevelopment zone. In other areas of need of rehabilitation, you don't have that.
But in the towns of rehabilitation, we can petition the state that the entire town, certain areas of the town can be deemed rehabilitation.
Very difficult to do that.
But it was done in the past. And you guys had to petition the state to become in a rehabilitation zone 100%. So why can't we just say we only want 50% of the township? And yes, I will get you that information. There are towns that deem that.
I'd like to learn that.
So just something that could be put on the agenda, say for January, for a council workshop?
Possibly. You could send me something.
I'm sorry.
You would ask if you could send something to us.
Mhm.
You want to do an analysis. I'll read what you send us. I'll take a look at it. Well, I'm not making any commitments to put it on the agenda in January.
Understood. That's all I can ask, but we're clear on, just so I'm clear, because the township, and this is more for Mr. Carlemere, the township has been deemed by council way back when, during, I believe it was 07, 08, during the recession, to be a rehabilitation zone. Therefore, we cannot discriminate against abatements for new construction.
Well, once you have an ordinance that establishes your right, and the developer comes in, and most developers, Dave & Buster's and the outlets, I know the administration worked very close to and very diligently with both of those establishments before they even decided this is where they were coming. And they all talk about, when they're looking at the advantages in the area, they all talk about tax abatements and things of that nature. So once they get started and once they qualify, and they're moving forward, it's very difficult for a governing body to say, no, it's on our books, but we're not going to give you the tax abatement.
No, I'm not saying that to deny.
You are going to have to say it's on the books, it's offered, or it's not.
Okay, but I believe we can do certain areas of the township. To answer your question, Mr. Hutchinson, about the schools with the outlet stores, and this would, hindsight's 20/20, but a lot of those stores and the outlet centers are closed, and we that's by no fault of this council or anything.
That's a tough economic time. I don't know if that's an accurate statement. I haven't been over there recently.
Well, I can use the Acme Shopping Center the Acme Shopping Center over in, south end of Toronto, Cross Keys Road.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the outlets.
No, the Acme Shopping Center, just as another example, there were two mom and pop shops, Abbondanza Italian Food and S&P Steakhouse. And I know for a fact that that area got an abatement, which is fine. But then when the abatement was lifted, the rents went through the roof. And then those two businesses couldn't afford the rent, so then they left, and then now there's Dollar Tree down taking over there.
But you're making leaps of logic, Sam. You're assuming.
It's for a fact.
Can we get back to, you have any more?
This question.
Okay, now we're going off.
Which does their.
What happens when we give people a lot of time, they just go all over.
I understand that. He was just.
Back to the ordinance, thank
He
you.
had asked, why would we do an
I just want to
abatement,
get back to the ordinance.
which is the abatement,
Okay.
okay, which is the
Abatement
ordinance.
not lifted. We make it sound as if it's an affirmative act to remove the abatement. Abatement has a life of a percentage over 5 years.
Yes, but if we don't have the-
Statutory, and that's how it works. So it's not like when you say lifted, it ran its course. So whatever
When-
the owner
yes.
or landlord does at that point, that's that person's economics. But you led me to believe, if I didn't know it was different, that the government lifted it, removed it. That's not the fact.
All right,
It
so-
just ran its course.
We're talking semantics on language, but, okay,
Publicly now.
okay. So when the abatement runs its course, then rent goes up on these businesses.
Does it go up?
That's a-
Does it?
Yes, in this
Why?
case, in the act,
How much did it go up?
I'd have to go back to my
No,
notes.
you don't have the information. You're just making leaps of logic, Sam. I'm willing to let you say.
Mr. Hutchinson, Mr.
Sam, you have
Mr.
no idea
Cardis,
what you're talking about.
Mr. Cardis, when I asked about the South Jersey Retirement Fund, did not have the information. I did not attack him. I said, if you could get back to me on that. I don't have that information handy because I don't know what the questions are being asked. Okay, so therefore, for you to attack me and say that I don't have that information, I do have that information. I will get you that information. But I afforded Mr. Cardis
No,
you know,
no.
no, I afforded him because he should have come with that information.
Sam,
It's on the agenda,
Sam, you're
all
trying
right?
to bring
So
a different-
therefore,
you're
no,
trying to bring
you're
somebody else
attacking
into
me,
our
Mr.
discussion.
Hutchinson.
Sam, what is the rent? Tell me
I don't
that.
have it off the top of my
How much
head.
did their taxes go up?
I will get you that information, Mr. Hutchinson,
Why
but
would
for,
you stand here and tell me?
you
this
know
isn't
rents
the
went
time?
up, you know it did,
Sam,
and you're attacking me because I didn't come prepared to answer that one question on that, when you know that the answer is correct, and you know that I will provide you with that information. But yet you're attacking me for not coming prepared when Mr. Cardis did not come prepared either.
Sam, just because I'm proving a point doesn't mean I'm attacking.
Okay, can we get back to the ordinance? Do you have
Actually, it
anything
is.
else to add, Mr. Sweet?
No, I don't.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this? Mr. Heinball? And I ask any other speakers that wish to speak, be cognizant of everyone else's time that may want to speak on this subject matter. Thank you.
Pete Heinball, Morningstar Court. The location of the property for this assessment, I can't picture what was there previously. What was on that lot prior to this building?
It was vacant, they constructed, it's the far one, all the way to the far,
So
all
it
the way
was
to the end.
vacant.
If you go down the strip, it's the last one.
It was vacant. It wasn't an different older building or something like that. It was torn
It's a
down.
piece of land.
It was vacant. Okay, good. Thank you. Also, what was mentioned regarding abatements. So every other town we don't know of any other town that also does not offer these abatements. So does this provide an advantage in our toolkit or whatever to tell a business we're offering an abatement and just go next, they can get the same deal next door, next town, run a meeting.
If you don't have it in your tool belt, then you're at a disadvantage.
So-
Therefore, it's an advantage.
So it's a statewide giveaway to businesses.
Pete, my statement is clear. If you don't
No,
have
no,
it-
you're right.
Am I
Mr.
right?
Hutchinson, you're right.
Okay.
But in that case, if every town offers it, it's just a statewide giveaway that probably should be cleaned up across the state. And so let's start with that. It's a giveaway that shifts the burden of tax to every other resident in the town because business A and B and C are getting abatements.
many a taxpayer who might disagree with that statement.
No, it's math. If one business doesn't pay 100%, if one property doesn't pay 100%, the rest have to pick up.
But if we lost the outlets because Williamstown was willing to give an abatement.
No, I'm saying it's something needs to be cleaned up statewide. I agree with that.
Okay.
I'm saying it's a statewide giveaway. It's just a giveaway. Those are the kind of things need to be cleaned up, and that's a statewide issue, but
Not
we can
disagreeing with
start.
your premise on that.
We can start. Where do we start doing that? Gloucester Township can maybe start doing that. We have a assemblywoman who works right next door.
But let's make sure we understand this. The abatement doesn't, Tom, Dave, help me out on this for the purpose of this. Is the taxpayer necessarily paying less in taxes, or are they allocating the taxes differently?
Zero.
They're
Zero is the
paying
first
same on the
year.
ground that they were paying before the first shovel went in.
Right.
Then when they are ready to occupy, then the improvement section assessment.
That's right, I'm sorry. Yeah.
And we're paying zero year one.
Right,
So
right. I just had a little.
So every year, they're gonna be paying more, but they're paying a percentage more.
but less than
I
100%,
get you.
which spreads it to the rest. I mean, that's math. I'm not debating a
So you're saying
semantics.
there's a systemic problem.
Yes, it
with the
is.
Tax abatement.
And where do we
program.
start to fix that? That we're playing along with. For years, we give away abatements like candy. When a systemic problem, it shifts the tax burden to residents. It creates
Yeah, I understand.
it creates an unfair competitive advantage to the competition. This business A has an abatement and low operating costs.
Your question is, where do you start? Well, clearly, it would be.
It's a problem it's a dirty solution to it and doesn't solve a problem in the big picture,
If you wanted to change that, you would have to start at the state
Yeah,
level.
well, who's we? Who's you? We?
You would have to start at the state
We,
level.
why can't it be?
I'm not saying I disagree with it, because guess what? It's working to this town's advantage. We're getting businesses in where other
Well, you're not
towns
getting
aren't.
any that you wouldn't otherwise get. Because every other town offers it. You just said that.
I disagree, and we disagreed on this.
Yes, we
before.
have.
May I finish? Because,
Yeah.
day one, with Dave and Buster and the taxes that they're gonna pay on the property they're at, is more than the taxes were for that entire property. Because when it was farmland assessed, it was about $4,000 for that entire property. That includes the outlets. And we've had this discussion, you and I, back and forth. I disagree. I know you have your opinions on abatements. I have a different opinion than you. I believe it's a marketing tool, a tool that we have that we could use. We have access to major highways here.
That's
We
the
have
advantage.
access
Why
to
they need an abatement? The taxpayers footed the bill. This abatement, you invoked the outlets and Dave and Buster, even though you invoked it. The taxpayers already put up the funds to make that property desirable in the form of exit ramps, roads, circles, bridges, sewage infrastructure. That's what made that property desirable. That's your marketing tool. You don't have to do another giveaway.
Would you say that
Yeah.
it's more difficult for a newer business to generate revenue sometimes?
Maybe Joe's Barbershop or something, not a Dave and Buster's or Gloucester
No.
Outlets or
But
something.
would you agree with the premise that there are businesses that need time to
So
generate
it's
revenue?
this
Yes.
township's job to make that give them a fair
Maybe-
competitive advantage.
Maybe the premise behind the abatement program is to allow these businesses to generate a
That's not
following
government's job.
so that.
How about lower taxes?
See,
How about
we
lower
had-
taxes?
the-
Well, I know where it's going.
Peter, let me ask you.
But maybe somebody else
Dan,
does it,
Hold
right?
on, Dan.
No, I hear you, Orlando. He can speak, please.
So
Please, hold on. Please let him finish. And then after that, we're gonna go back to this ordinance because you're going everywhere with this.
Well, you
Except this particular
You
ordinance.
invoked the outlets, so I went with it.
Now we're going,
I enjoy the badge.
Yeah,
I'm
fine.
I don't, because now we're wasting people's time here.
We're
Okay,
talking
because
about.
you're on your soapbox. No, let him finish. We'll go back to you. Let's finish the ordinance.
That's arrogant. Calling what's important to me is soapbox. That's arrogant.
Because this is what it is. Are you talking
No,
about
it's something that's
Choose
important to the
Landing? Are
town.
you talking about Choose Landing? Are you talking about this
I
particular property?
started until
You're
you
not.
invoked
Because every time
the
there's a
outlets.
tax abatement, you up here and you tell me the same thing over and over again. You send me an
Don't be
email, or you're
condescending
gonna ask me the same
about
thing
soapbox.
later today.
I'm talking about
So
unfair
Pete,
tax.
may I finish? So Pete, let him finish. We're gonna go back to you and then we're gonna wrap up your
Gotcha.
portion. Thank you.
I'm sorry if I'm wasting anybody's time, but I like the theory behind it, but
Yeah.
I think maybe you could argue that the state developed the program so that it would give newer businesses an opportunity to increase revenue over time, and they can graduate to the level of taxation that they're gonna have to pay at the end of the abatement period. Just a thought,
Steve, please cover your face.
just a thought.
Mr. Heimel, do you have anything else to add other than what was said earlier regarding the abatement on Choose Landing Road?
No, I don't, sir.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak on this? We're closing the public hearing. Thank you. I entertain a motion.
I'll make that.
Is there a second? Second. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison,
Yes.
Ms. Grace. Yes. Mr. Mignone,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs.
Yes.
Mrs. Winters,
Yes.
Mrs. Trotta,
Yes.
Mr. Mercado.
Yes. Next, we have a resolution of the consent agenda. Any council members would like to remove any of the items on the consent agenda, please speak up. Hearing none, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison,
Yes.
Ms. Grace. Yes. Mr. Mignone,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs.
Yes.
Mrs. Winters.
Yes.
Mrs. Trotta,
Yes.
Mr. Mercado.
Yes.
Resolution 273, resolution to make budget transfers between appropriations in the calendar year 2020 general fund budget.
I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison,
Yes.
Ms. Grace. Yes. Mr. Mignone,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs. Yes. Mrs. Winters.
Yes.
Mrs. Trotta,
Yes.
Mr. Mercado.
Yes.
Resolution 274, resolution of the Township Council, Township of Gloucester, Camden County, New Jersey, declaring that an emergency exists requiring the immediate repair to the storm drain inlet on Sonora Court.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison,
Yes.
Ms. Grace. Yes. Mr. Mignone,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs.
Yes.
Mrs. Winters,
Yes.
Mrs. Trotta,
Yes.
Mr. Mercado.
Yes.
Resolution 275, resolution authorized the tax collector to cancel or correct 2020 billing and for exempted properties or added assessments as indicated.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison,
Yes.
Ms. Grace.
Yes.
Mr. Mignone,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs.
Yes.
Mrs. Winters.
Yes.
Mrs. Trotta,
Yes.
Mr. Mercado.
Yes.
Resolution 276, resolution to authorize the tax collector to grant senior citizen, disabled, or veteran deductions for the year 2020 as indicated and to adjust any balances.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison,
Yes.
Ms. Grace.
Yes.
Mr. Mignone,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs.
Yes.
Mrs. Winters,
Yes.
Mrs. Trotta,
Yes.
Mr. Mercado.
Yes. And we have resolution 277. This is the negotiated settlement with Altman Autumn Ridge LLC. Entertain a motion.
So moved?
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison,
Hey Chuck, sorry about, who is the attorney on the, Autumn Ridge?
Blau and Blau.
That's our attorney. Who is the appellant's attorney for taxpayers?
They had a big firm.
So not Peter Zip?
No, not people.
Yes.
Ms. Grace. Yes. Mr. Mignone,
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs.
Yes.
Mrs. Winters.
Yes.
Mrs. Trotta,
Yes.
Mr. Mercado.
Yes. Let's see. We did receive 3 GT Gov access emails. The first one's from Peter Heimball, Morningstar Court, Sicklerville, New Jersey, 08081. Back in July, Gloucester Township approved the borrowing of $10 million. The explanation given for this was due to the recession, there is uncertainty of government revenue receipts, even though at the time Gloucester Township experienced no significant reduction in revenue receipts. Now that Gloucester Township has collected property taxes for all 4 quarters of the year, and now that New Jersey has finalized its budget, has Gloucester Township experienced any significant reduction in revenue receipts? this year. Mr. Cardis, would you like to address that?
Yeah, I mean, we actually have had reductions in revenues. Right now, we're at about 665,000, and that's primarily due to fees and permits, court fines, interest, recreation was a big one, that's 180,000. The pool was 70,000. And we're still waiting for a final payment from the state for state aid. I think that's around 210,000.
Thank you. I'm glad you're here from this one, Mr. Palumbo. This is from George Ryer from 85 Ariel Road. This is a multi-part question. Why is it called a redevelopment plan when all the development has been on open fields in Gloucester Township? 2, why would a brand new office complex get a tax abatement? Are they charging rent? What has their taxes been for the past 4 years? Look at property records. They keep changing the addresses, or the tax assessor office has been creating new block and lot for all the new buildings by Choose Landing LLC, and therefore allow them to qualify for a new tax abatement. Example, block 9708 lot address, 1403 Choose Landing became 9708/1X, and 9708/1X with qualifications from CO100 to CO700, changing from tax to land or exempt for the past 4 years. Properties throughout 1365 to 1403 are all owned and developed by the Choose Landing LLC in care of Needleman. LLCs have the luxury of changing their names to avoid any taxes or liabilities. Can I create an LLC and put it on my residential property and get a 5-year tax abatement? You and they should be ashamed for not paying their fair share when you can't figure out how to do a budget. Why are you giving tax revenue away to someone who doesn't need it? Boo, hiss. Would you like to comment on that, Mr. Palumbo?
I gave Tom some information on that. I don't know, Tom, if you want to go further on it, or I'll just give
Well,
up with it.
I mean, these are the last of a 10-year project being completed. And so, again, by law, they're entitled to the abatement on the improvement. They're paying taxes on the land now already. As far as the first question, I think what the individual is the way it's being presented, it appears that the individual thinks that there has to be
New construction.
there has to be a building that is being renovated in order to have a redevelopment plan. And it's really not. It could be vacant land. And in most cases, it is vacant land. So it's new construction. So I think that's the confusion there.
I know I've received emails from this individual. Mr. Leck, have you received emails from this individual?
The name sounds familiar.
Yes, there's a development occurring across from her property, and she's not happy with it. Okay. Our next question is, next email is from Amber McGuigan, 6 Juniper Lane, Blackman, New Jersey. I just want to let everyone know why I have been missing from council meetings lately. My family moved out of Gloucester Township in October to be closer to our church and my children's school. I would like to thank all council members for the willingness to engage in dialogue with me in these past months about ensuring justice and well-being for all the residents of Gloucester Township. I hope that discussion will continue in my absence. Gratefully, Amber McGuigan. We wish her and her family well. With that, we'll open up the second public portion. Mr. Rarick, you're the first person that's going to come up here. We have 30 minutes allocated for the second public portion. Each speaker is entitled to 5 minutes. Mr. Rarick.
All right. Nick Rarick, 2506 Beacon Hill Drive. Like I said, I'm under contract to purchase 12 North Black Horse Pike. I'm trying to open a tattoo parlor / retail store. I submitted a zoning permit and it was denied. One of the comments on there was an amendment to the redevelopment agreement. And I don't know if this is accurate or not. It said June 28th of 2004. It says Blackwood West redevelopment plan. And the permitted uses on there, 3 and 4. One is retail, sales, and services. And then the other one is personal services. So, I mean, I feel like that personal services probably falls under that unless there's something that like forbids like a tattoo parlor in there. You know what I mean?
Well, I know that we are scheduled, we had you on our workshop for December 7th at 6:30. And Mr. Lecter, myself, and the rest of the council, Mr. Carlmer will be there as well.
Okay.
So any information that you can have, and we can have a longer discussion at that workshop.
Yeah, because I'll probably wind up having to close on it in, I would assume like maybe like 30 more days. So if it was actually like going to get denied, I was hoping that I'd be able to know that before I make the investment, here, but, do you know how long the process usually takes for that?
Mr. Carlmer?
Well, I guess the only question that I would have is you're saying that the zoning officer denied your use is not a permitted use.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure how far, I have to be cautious, counsel, that you get involved in working with this question because his right is to appeal to the zoning board, appeal the denial of the zoning officer. You're shaking your head. Oh, because it's redevelopment zone. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a redevelopment zone. So that does make a difference. So the issue then is the redevelopment zone, probably development zone. Thank you, Ken.
So Dave, if we approved it,
You have to request the planning board to recommend, go along with your recommendation to allow this type of use.
It's gonna take more than 30 days.
Yeah, so, but my question is that,
And I'd say no for a timeline because it would require an ordinance amendment.
but on here, I feel like personal services is,
Not for
Intellect-
tattoo parlor. In the zoning
But
ordinance, well, I don't know, Council President.
Go ahead.
This property is in a redevelopment area, which is different than the zoning ordinance. And in our zoning ordinance, say highway commercial or neighborhood commercial zone, we allow tattoo parlors as a conditional use, and you have to meet certain conditions. It's not under personal sales or services. That would be like a salon. For tattoo parlors, and there's an additional township code for tattoo parlors, so it's a unique use. Range.
so is there an ordinance that like lays out what personal services is?
It wouldn't.
Because
There's-
personal services, intellectual property for manual labor.
Well, it's what
Which
the
is hard.
ordinance says. The zoning officer denied it, so that's where you're at. That's their job. That's what she-
I guess my only question,
Evaluate it.
Right.
I'm just
but
saying.
it's in the plan though, was my thing, that was all.
Well,
Yeah. So
it's not specifically, if it's, normally, if the use is not listed, it's not permitted.
Yeah, my argument is just that it is listed in there, so if you guys, I guess could
Tattoo
take
parlor
that.
is not listed there.
Why are they different?
Well,
What
so
is the
personal
difference?
services would be a barber shop then, right?
Probably would fall into that, barbershop, salon.
Right, but where does it lay out what personal services is? Because personal services is intellectual property for manual labor, which is in the plan that was developed in 2004.
All I could say is historically, the town has considered a tattoo parlor as a conditional use. It's just not a by right, it's not an entitled use. Just like you can't have auto repair shop wherever you want it. You can't have, they're conditional uses. The Wawa stores are conditional uses. You're just not allowed to have a Wawa store, even in a highway commercial zone. There's certain conditions of that use, and that's how we treat tattoo parlors.
So Ken, correct me if I'm wrong then. So if anyone, if this individual can make a request of the governing body to consider requesting an amendment to the redevelopment zone to make it permitted. If that happens, then they can do a first reading, but then send it to the planning board, for the planning board to review, and you have to wait for planning board to give its recommendation to say yes or no. You can counter that if you wish, but then you have your second reading. So that's where the time factor comes in. It might take you more than 30 days to get through that process.
Right.
It
Wait
will.
for another meeting.
The planning board's not gonna meet until the beginning of the year, probably, so.
All right, thank you.
I just wanted to give you a timeline, just so you know.
Right.
if you're still interested.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Polidoro?
Good evening again, Council. Ray Polidoro from Ariel. Just a request that when public is asking questions and the questions are being replied to by some of the folks, if they could find a way to a microphone, we could find a microphone to them so that their input could be caught on audio as a response to the people's questions. That'd be great if you could do that. Secondly, what I just observed here a little while ago, a little bit upsetting. When this council conducts a meeting and the public has its input, whether it's the same 5 people that show up every week or you have a room full of people, there's a difference between a room full of people and occupying time and the people that relentlessly come here to question their government. And sometimes in a friendly way and sometimes in a debating way. I don't think that it was appropriate for a council president to address a resident that feels passionate about something that is important to him as he is a resident, and maybe asking on behalf of people that don't come, that watch on the $69 can. It's still appropriate that if he's got a passion for it, or I've got a passion for it, that they be able to have that speech and dialogue with you, just because you don't think it's important. I don't think, and I want to do this in a civilized way with you, Orlando.
Can I respond to that, Ray?
Absolutely, please do.
You have in the past have told me that I preside over the meeting, and you've told me to use my gavel. And I'm asking a resident, Mr. Heimball, who's been here for many, many years. Mr. Heimball, I'm going to apologize to you for raising my voice. And I shouldn't have raised my voice and elevated it. But quite frankly, I'm tired of the back and forth between certain people with members of council. This is not an interrogation. It's public comment. And it's a back and forth. And when I saw Mr. Heimball's email earlier today regarding, again, the tax anticipation notes, okay, and I'm sure that's going to come up. When I saw the abatement, it's back and forth, over and over, and the questions are answered, but because that individual, and Mr. Heimball can speak for himself, right? But I do appreciate you taking, let me finish. See, Ray, you're cutting me off.
But my time clock is
running.
running.
More time.
Okay,
Ray.
thank you.
Okay, but there are people that come here, and yes, they do get on their soapbox. And here's an opportunity to talk about tax abatements. It's like, okay, I'm going to talk about tax abatements. They don't care about Choose Landing and the property that's down there. No, it was talking about everything else. Okay, and yeah, and there are some times that we have members of council that don't let people have an opportunity to speak or finish, or maybe they may go on attack. And I tried to bring it back to what it was. And this was talking about that particular ordinance. So, Ray, you've admonished me in the past, and I'll still continue to do what I need to do here to run the meetings effectively. Okay? Because my intent is to get through an agenda, answer the questions from our people that are residents that are coming here. But there are some folks, let's be frank, there are people in this room here that have ran against the people here. Okay? And I've said this in the past, and I'll say it again. At times, I feel like they don't want this township to move forward and to succeed. So, the floor is yours.
Okay, and when you first became council president, and I had a
I remember your comments.
Okay, and it was my wish that you would conduct yourself half as good as your predecessor had. And you made it very well known that you want to give the image that you're running this council with an iron fist. And we get that from the time clock down to the style of debates. And again, I want to keep this civil. So here's the other points that I wanted to make.
Ray.
The other points that I wanted to make is when those of us that are on this side of the microphone are addressing you about tax abatements. Some of the things that we're considering, besides the fact that we're falling short in other areas of tax revenues when we do that. But let's think about the businesses that have been here for many, many years that don't always have a steady economy, especially at a time like now. But ordinarily, those businesses have been here for years and have always paid their fair share of taxes. It is a voice for them. It is also a voice for residents who have seen, residents don't get a tax abatement. They don't get tax breaks other than if they add their existing home. They may get an abatement on the addition. But you're talking about a town that has seen its residents seen 4 tax increases in 7 years of almost 10%, 4 times in 7 years. And to see a business that is a multi-billion-dollar establishment come into the town, it's not an argument, it's a passion. What these people are saying, whether they're here every week or they're just here for one time, just because it's not important to you doesn't mean that it's not important to them. And I just think that the way that that went could have gone a whole lot better. But please take into consideration the passion. Not everybody has the same way to deliver their message, and everyone's got their own style, as you all do. But I just didn't think that that was the appropriate response for someone who feels very passionate. I admire the man for the numbers that he goes through, the work that he does before he comes to these meetings, and the research that he does, sometimes a lot better than the person he's asking the questions of. He's got better answers in some cases. That's a lot of work.
Yes.
And I admire that.
Yes, and he's told us that he knows the budget better than all of us. He's said that on previous occasions.
And you obviously you
If
believe that as
recall
well as I do, and I'm glad you do.
recall that. But
In any event,
going back to your comments about running the iron fist, no, I'm not going to let people stand here and grandstand for 15 minutes. We're not going to do that. Okay, this is a public portion. We gave you ample amount of time. Okay, but there are people that come here with agendas, and don't tell me that they don't.
and I can understand that, but as the council president, I think maybe that could be toned down a little bit, because understand where it's coming from, and it does have a great deal of importance to them. Again, I wish you all a happy
You as
Thanksgiving.
well.
Please stay safe.
Thank you. Mr. Sweet.
Sam Sweet from Ariel. I would hope that, and this is just maybe a outside request, that council could do something for the gentleman who's trying to open a business here. Is there something we could streamline? I understand the planning board's not meeting for another month, but here's a gentleman who's looking to buy a property for a specific use, and he may not be able to, you're asking him to make a large investment in the property that he may want to have to back out of now if he can't use it for that specific use. Perhaps it's something we can do for small businesses. I'm just saying, I don't know who he is, but this would be now the second business that's tried to go in, and I don't know the facts on the other business, the haircut business, Mrs. Trotter, that you know. I don't know. I'm just saying this is now the second small business that's not going into that same area. So is there something we can do to help out a resident or someone who wants to bring small business into the area?
Well, we have that gentleman placed on our workshop for the December 7th agenda.
Okay.
At 6:30.
But
In the interim, I think that we'll reach out to him and also speak to Mr. Lechner regarding this.
all right, thank you. That's all. Wanted to go. You said there was a shortage of revenue of about 665,000.
Yeah.
Okay, and you said 210 of it was state aid that you're waiting for. Is that
210,000.
Okay.
That's not included in that 650.
that's not included? So potentially it's 875,000.
Correct.
Okay, but there are reductions in expenses because you said there was no pool revenue, but then there will be no pool expenses, correct?
There were less expenses in the recreation fund.
Okay, and so the pool rec, and then obviously, not to bring it up, but snow plowing. Snow plow is gonna be next to nothing unless we get large blizzards, hopefully not, in the month of December.
December is unpredictable.
Yes, but, I mean, we allotted, I believe, 200,000?
I believe it was 200.
Okay, so that may be a less of an expense. Obviously, we don't know that, but that could potentially be less.
200 is easily one storm.
Okay, one large storm, not a dusting.
I would say 5-6 inches.
That's a large storm for us, I would say.
I think the large one would be a foot.
Okay, all right, no,
Hopefully we don't have that.
yeah, hopefully we don't have any snow, so.
We've had snow in December.
I know, I realize we've had it, I'm just saying, I hope we don't have snow, because then that would help us with our budget.
And I too hope so.
I used to
Okay.
love snow. I used to love it. Every time it snows, I
Um,
sugar.
And my last point of, President Mercado, you had said that some of us, you think, hope that you guys fail. We don't, for the record, I hope you don't fail. I just question my elected officials on certain questions, and I don't want you to fail. That's why I question you.
And I'm glad you say that, but sometimes, Sam, it comes across as very personal. Because it's just not comments here. There's comments elsewhere. And people may think it's a joke to say, hey, let's bring tasers to a council meeting.
I've never said that.
There's another gentleman where you engage in the conversation about tasers and Halloween curfews and hoping that the chief's not here. See, people send things to us. So who would say that? Why would someone want to incite violence at a council meeting? So I get offended, and I think it is personal. But why would someone say that? Even if they're joking, Sam?
I have a question for you.
No, I asked you a question.
And I don't have an answer to that.
Okay.
But if it was a joke and it's in
But no.
I'm a private citizen, correct?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so therefore my comings and goings should not be made public, correct?
People share that.
I understand that, but you telling people where I was at, why I wasn't at a meeting, was uncalled for. Was it not?
That you were at the school board meeting?
People don't need to really know where I'm at.
School board meeting?
I'm a private
That's why
citizen.
you asked the question.
I'm
Sam.
not
you
answering the
don't-
question
okay.
there, President
And I
Mercado.
apologize. I indicated you were at the school board meeting. I was at the school board meeting earlier.
I understand that,
But again,
I'm a private
again,
citizen.
am I inciting violence against you? Am I telling people to come to
If
the
people
council
don't,
meeting?
if there's someone that
Sam,
doesn't
I asked you
like
a
me,
question. Am I inciting violence?
potentially,
Have I ever
yes.
mentioned you, Sam? Have I ever mentioned you on any social media site? Have I ever talked poorly about you here at a council meeting or online? No, I
Here,
haven't.
yes, you have. Here
Oh, I
you
have?
have. You have, yes. People where I'm at, if someone doesn't like me, then they know where I'm at, yes.
You were at a public meeting.
Just like, yes, but the public doesn't know that I'm at a public meeting, only the
You're
public
not
people.
He's not, you're not
Sam.
answering the question, Sam.
I am.
No, you're not.
Sam,
Oh,
you
no,
and another
you are
gentleman in this council chambers indicated that. What else do you have to say, Mr. Sweet?
That was it. I just said, I hope you do your jobs properly.
Okay.
That's why we question.
It doesn't come across. When you've asked to work with us in the past, and then what do you do? What do you do?
If you're
You go
insinuating,
online and you type about some things that we're not doing this. You contact vendors and say that you're someone else.
I've never
you
done
still-
that. I've
you
never
still-
done that.
Well, you and the other individual have not provided that information to us, and it's been 2 years since that's happened.
What information are you asking about?
The shop local,
Yes.
and the fellow up in Central Jersey. Okay.
Now, you insinuated that I said I was somebody I wasn't,
No,
which,
no, that was the individual that we were supposed to.
and I
work
know
with.
that for a fact that that's a lie.
You still have not provided that information to.
Okay? Because he's still trying business in this town and doesn't want to get
No,
blackballed.
he hasn't.
Okay?
Ms. Trotter, has he reached out to you since then?
Never.
No, okay. So,
But yet, you
but
said
I'll
that.
take you at your word, Sam, that you don't want us to
One
fail.
second,
You want us
President
to
Mercado,
succeed.
you are now saying that I insinuated that. However, when he came to the meeting, I was sitting on that side of behind him, not in front of him. I wasn't sitting at this table, I wasn't squatting down in front of him. So there was no way, no how, that he could have ever assumed that I was a council person, because I didn't tell him that. I said, you come to
Well-
council, and I specifically told him that I'm just a resident who would like to see this. If you'd like to come to a council meeting, present it, by all means.
Again, there's two people that misrepresented themselves to that individual. And I've been waiting for 2 years to provide that information. They said they would provide it to me, they have not. So, but Sam, no, there was nothing, no malice. When I said I read your e-access email and said that you were not here at the school board meeting. There was no malice behind that. I was not telling anyone to go over there and visit you, do any harm to you at all. I was saying that you were not here.
But I'm a private
you were at the
citizen, so
school board
my
meeting.
whereabouts
You had
should
another
not be
meeting.
made public
Okay,
by the council president.
all right.
Once I become a
So I-
non-private citizen, then by all
So I
means.
apologize, but I was not, I was saying you were at the school board meeting.
But that is
So I
my
apologize.
choice, not his choice.
But you make that public.
That is my choice and not his choice.
Is there anything else, Mr. Sweet?
The public hearing for the 493,000,
That has not taken place. We have not received that allocation of money yet.
do we know, are we looking at,
I spoke to
In
Mr.
December or-
Cardis yet. He has not given me a date, an anticipation date for that money.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, and you have a great evening.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Is there anyone else? Mr. Heimball. And once, before you speak, Mr. Heimball, I do apologize for raising my voice.
I apologize for persistently interrupting.
Okay, if I do ask that when we do have a conversation, I ask you to please let someone speak, please let them speak. I'll give you that time to respond to them as well.
I shall.
And I'll try to let you talk.
I like the dialogue, Mr. Hutchinson, I do.
And I do like your mask, but what's happening to that team? Hence,
Yeah, I revealed myself as a loser, didn't I? One question, what is, assuming we get the last state aid payment, and there's no indication we won't, right? What's the state aid for the year going to be? That energy,
Overall now,
that energy, yes,
I believe it's 5.3 million.
5.3? Okay, thank you. And also I wanted to mention the gentleman who's trying to open a business downtown. Sounds like a small business, probably small profit margins. And he's going into an existing building. He won't receive a tax abatement. So that kind of disposes of that new business argument that you wanted to make about tax abatements. He won't receive a tax abatement, and he's running on a razor thin margin compared to David Buster's and such.
Theoretically, couldn't he apply for a tax abatement if he makes improvements to the building?
Oh, yeah. He's moving into existing buildings. We talked to him.
Yeah, but if I remember, the barber shop or beauty salon was making improvements to the building, substantial improvements, and they would have been entitled to a tax abatement on the improvement. So I mean, that's really what we're talking about.
That's not what you said. You said you want to help struggling, starting businesses to.
Well, he's got a retro. He might have to retrofit it. I don't know.
And maybe it would be a better selling point. This gentleman is closing in 30 days. He's kind of getting, for lack of a better word, the runaround from the township, answers to questions. Those are more attractive to attract businesses into the town than other things. I mean, I know there's going to be a reason why it's more than 30 days, but that's that's part of the problem. And you've mentioned that before in meetings. Mr. Hudson, you'd love to streamline that and make it more business friendly to start up in the town.
Mr. Heimball, I think Mr. Lecter would like to chime in on the last comment he made regarding the township. And
Yeah, the runaround was a poor choice of words. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Just a long process for responses.
Can we let Mr. Lecter?
I like to tell people honestly what their expectations may be. He said he wanted to close in 30 days. I don't see that happening when you have to adopt an ordinance. The ordinance, we're gonna have a work session. Let me finish. We're gonna have a work session on December 7th. An ordinance would have to be prepared. It would have to be introduced. It has to go to the planning board, and it has to come back to council for second reading. I just don't see that physically taking place in 30 days.
I agree
I
with you.
wanted the residents to know that.
I agree with you.
So they don't close on a property, spend money on a property, and they find out that all the other improvements that were done by this other person that was in there did all these improvements without any permits. All the work was done without permits. But there was another township president that was up here saying about how we give everybody a hard time. That's factually untrue. I've been listening to it now for the last maybe 2 months. Now this resident's going to run into the same problem with the landlord. All those improvements that may have been done, they may or may not meet building code. These are New Jersey Uniform Construction Code requirements. That has nothing to do with town. You can't do a bunch of improvements to your home and then ask for an inspection when you never even had a permit to do it to begin with. And then complain to council people and residents about how we are giving everybody a hard time. I've been listening to it now for the last 2 or 3 months, and I apologize to council, but I just had to get it off my chest.
Thank you, Mr. Lecter.
We have a lot of people up in my office, 14 people, that are running around, make sure everybody has their plans reviewed and permits. Not everything fits. A tattoo parlor is not a permitted use. Even in all of Gloucester Township, it's not a permitted use. It's a conditional use.
Thank you, Mr. Legner. Mr. Heimbach, please continue.
Yes. A lot of that explanation, proposals, ordinances, I mean, he was making my point, and it's part of his response, that it takes all that for some guy to want to open a business in town. That somewhere this town can accelerate that for the sake of small businesses.
There's New Jersey state statutory state law requirements. That has nothing to do with the board, council.
Well, you
These
just said
are
the
requirements
ordinance.
of law. You have to write your legislator. and have to change it.
Nothing we can do
Thank
to
you, Mr.
streamline.
Legner.
Nothing we can do to streamline it then, okay. Has a budget subcommittee formed as yet?
No,
Okay. Okay.
thank you. Is there anyone else? We'll close the second public portion. Polling the directors.
Mr. Berman,
Nothing to report.
Mr. Cardis,
Nothing to report.
Mr. Lechner,
Nothing, thank you.
Chief Harkins,
I just want to go on and publicly thank Mr. Dave Beach, who is a Remax Realtor, who donated 52 turkeys and meals that we helped distribute through our partnership with the Center for Family Services at the Family Resource Center on Saturday. It was a great donation, a lot of help given. And just to remind everyone, we are still collecting. We're right in the middle of our toy drive. We can't wait till Christmas because we have to get these distributed and we'll have a plan. So, and just wanted to say, have a happy Thanksgiving.
Chadwell,
Nothing to report.
Mr. Hutchison.
I've got the easiest job up here. I get to listen to people, ask questions, complain, say good things about us. I get to chime in when I want to chime in, as I feel it. Pete, I really do enjoy our debates. Sometimes they get heated. People who don't know us, they think that we're fighting. In reality, we're not. Sam, I didn't mean to attack you. I was trying to engage you. Okay? It may have felt like it was an attack, but honest to God, it wasn't. Okay? Orlando has a tough job up here. He has to run this meeting. And I'm not easy to control down here. He does an excellent job up there. Yeah, he may lose his temper once in a while, but he does an excellent job at a very difficult thing to do. So I thank you, Orlando, for that. And I'm not just saying, those are not just words. That's sincere. Thank you guys for coming, for asking questions. Nick, if I can do anything, I want to help you.
Ms. Grace,
Oh, I just want to thank everyone for their passion and commitment, for wanting to see better Gloucester Township in progress. I'm listening and I appreciate the passion. I just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and stay safe.
Mr. Mignot,
Thank you all for coming. Please be safe going home. Happy Thanksgiving. Please stay safe during this pandemic.
Mr. Stubbs,
Thank you everyone for coming out. Please stay safe. Please wear your mask, 6 feet, stay home. Don't have anyone over. This virus is serious. As long as you're just getting over it, we really have to be mindful and be careful at all times. It's just very important. Happy Thanksgiving, and glad to be back and see everyone.
Glad to have you back, too.
Mrs. Winters,
I want to thank everyone for coming out and their comments. And as Ms. Stubbs said, please be safe, please be careful, take care of yourselves, take care of your family. As she mentioned, small gatherings, no big gatherings. That's where it's spreading, at these casual small functions that people are holding in their homes and things like that. So please be careful, take care of yourselves, take care of your family, because it's out there. Yeah, it's ugly. It's affecting everyone. Everyone knows someone who's had it. someone who's been really sick, some people are mild, but you don't know where you're gonna go and which one you're gonna get and what the effects will be on you and your family. So please be careful and happy Thanksgiving, stay safe.
Mrs. Stroud?
Head coach Tom Toner had reached out, and his team to me to ask to announce that their, team, the Tri-State Elite 10U Rookie Division, they won the championship. They won the game 7-6. And, they finished overall with a 21-2 division, record in the division. And they will be coming back next year, GT Blue Sox U11 team. So congratulations to them. Thank you all. Have a good night. Happy Thanksgiving.
Mrs. Ricardo?
I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. As we sit at our tables this Thursday, don't forget to be thankful for all that we have. And I wish all you and your families a happy Thanksgiving, and God bless you and your families. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Have a great evening. Oh, does it come back up again?
Thanks for